all sorts of problems and paradoxes appear when one thinks of self to be Philip's self, that this is myself. Uh, the whole concept of free will would not be an issue if one realized that self is the whole universe. The Buddhist and actually the Hindu say you are the Godhead, you are the source of all existence. Each of us is. The Buddhists say if you meet Buddha on the road, kill him. Though I did tell my Buddhist monks this, and they went, no, because they hadn't heard that koan or that story. I think it's more Japanese and not Tibetan. Because you're the Buddha, you're the source, you're the center. You've won the lottery, the big time existential lottery. Am I sweating? Is it kind of humid walking over here in the sun? I think it was. So if one accepts self to be everything, then I'm actually like a newborn being manifested or recreated into this self in a perceptual motor dynamic where like I'm a baby trying to find my hands to feed myself because I have a desire. That's another word to interject into witnessing, desire. So if I become a student of my body, of this universe, then I can learn how my body works. If I feel I'm in the universe and I'm not the universe, then I become a victim. Something happens to me, this little self called Philip. And I say it shouldn't happen to a nice guy like me. Well, in reality, of course it should happen to a nice guy like me, because I'm the student. So one can keep eyes clear. The moment I say I'm a victim, I stop being a student or something. I say something shouldn't have happened. You shouldn't do this to me. But with the perspective I seem to have discovered or fallen into or devolved into, there's nothing done to me, just things happening. If I'm walking around and I get rained on, is the rain doing it to me, or is it simply raining? But if someone throws water from me from an upstairs window on a narrow Italian street, let's go to Siena, then if I get upset, it's because I think they should have known better or done something different. They did it to me. But in actuality, they would have thrown water on anybody, perhaps. So it was simply done. So why would I choose to ruin my day twice? First, getting wet. Hopefully it was clean water. And secondly, that I'm angry about it. I use a story about a drowning person and how when people are drowning, they'll pull anyone or thing down around them to stay on the surface. So if you get close to a drowning person, they'll pull you under. I know when I was studying lifeguarding, they said to come to a drowning person under the water, grab them by the feet, spin them around so they're facing away from you, and then grab them from behind across their shoulder and neck, and keep them from grabbing you, because they will. They'll try to drown. They won't try to drown you. They'll just pull you down, with the effect being that you may be drowned too. Well, did they do that to me? No, they just did it. They do it to anyone. And when I stop playing the victim, then I start seeing how other people are behaving and why they're behaving that way. So instead of what takes the place of judgment, becomes compassion. I come to terms with myself and stop taking responsibility for their pain. I had a girlfriend who was bipolar, and she found more places in me that were hurt. And she obviously was troubled, And if I got mad or upset, I was a victim. And it was because she found a place in me where uh, I hadn't healed. I hadn't come to terms with myself. I hadn't accepted myself. Um, if you have a 3-year-old who tells you you're a poo-poo caca person, you accept the fact that they're 3. But if you have a 30-year-old saying the same thing in different words and you get mad, I only get mad because I think it's true. If it's not true, it's obviously their problem. So when I can let these people become teachers instead of victimizers, and I can be the student, then I can kind of get rid of that stuff. It's really wonderful. She was one of my best teachers. Uh, so anger. What is anger anyway? That's another story. Uh, and it usually has to do with fear. It has to do with feeling unloved. What else would it be? Judgment. But then again, I only judge people the way I judge myself. My issues are the issues I project onto other people. Fun stuff. When I was a kid, I knew I was a sensitive kid. We probably all are. And I saw the world to be really painful. And my question was, how can I remain sensitive in such an insensitive and painful world? The Buddhist saying the art of living is to have a joyful participation in the sorrows of the world. Well, boy howdy, that's kind of how it is. And the main pain was self-inflicted. I knew a girl in university who said, "Oh, I'm a very sensitive person, everything hurts me." But in reality, she's not sensitive to anything but her own hurt feelings. And the world was constantly assailing her with touching her in spots where she was already hurt. So to me, sensitive is when I have come to terms with my own senses and my own self-inflicted issues that kind of blot out my ability to feel the world around me, my greater self. And again, compassion takes the place of judgment. And it's so interesting because you can kind of move through the world being responsible, able to respond without being blamed or feeling guilty, knowing where my responsibility with other people ends. So many therapists and coaches say, oh, we need to learn to love ourselves. Well, myself isn't there to love. It's actually one needs to give up hating this illusion of self or not accepting, because there isn't anybody there. But if we think there's something there and we don't like it, it keeps us from living our lives. It keeps us from interacting with the rest of ourselves, with the world. So to me, it's a reimagining of self as opposed to loving oneself. The Greeks and the Romans talked about daemons and philosophs, was it? And then muses that used to inspire artists and writers and musicians, where they'd say, well, the muse didn't show up today, so I couldn't do anything. They don't even take credit for this stuff. Humans didn't, or the people didn't, the artists didn't. Well, some did, I'm sure. The point being, even Johann Sebastian Bach said if people knew that he just heard that stuff, they'd kill him. And when one discovers that one isn't doing anything but simply watching, even myself, even this Philip. I'm watching me too. Is my hair just sort of turning to shit here? It's okay. I did take a shower. Yeah. So, ego, isn't that an interesting thing? Ego. My feeling and experience is that ego is an invention of consciousness, of words in particular, where we take credit for stuff. And you know, ego, they say strong ego or controlling. Those are weak terms. A strong ego is someone who never is comfortable. They have to always be forceful with stuff because they feel like they aren't, quote, in control, when there's no need to be in control. I don't have to control my own hand. You know, this is mine. I don't need to do anything with it. And when one takes responsibility and realizes that the universe is I don't need to control it. I just need to embrace it and understand it and not use it because I am it. Engage in my own life. It all is game theory, actually. And this is the only game that seems to make sense. They talk about multi-universes. Well, that's all very well and good, but it's still witnessed by the same self. So what you see isn't that important. That I see is very important.